consequences of the budget. But we do not yet know what the full consequences of their legislative program will be, like their employment rights bill, designed by trade unions. But there is no point in me just complaining about Labour when it was obvious that we Conservatives lost the confidence of business. I was not surprised at how many people attended Labour's prawn cocktail or smoked salmon offensive last year. I know it is because you thought that we didn't understand what your needs and concerns were, and you knew we were going to lose. So as a first step to fix that, I have made sure that the two people who are in the most business-facing roles in my shadow cabinet are people who have run companies themselves, people who understand what you are about. Our Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, was the widely respected chair of the Treasury Select Committee. Before Parliament, though, Mel founded a successful business which he expanded into the US. Our new Shadow Business Secretary, Andrew Griffith, is a former Treasury Minister and chartered accountant. He's been a successful financial analyst and asset manager. He has serious boardroom experience. During the leadership contest, many people kept asking me, what are your policies? This was something that I resisted answering, because there is a lot that we need to fix before a party that's just started in opposition starts with new policies. I believe that we need to begin with first principles. If you're thinking about opening a restaurant, you don't start off with what the menu will be. So what are our principles? I believe that we need to have free and fair competition, not monopolies, not rent-seeking, not corporatism, but a genuine competition that allows new entrants in and those who are no longer productive to evolve or leave the economy. That is what free enterprise is about. We Conservatives must be the party of business, not just big business, not just corporates, but small business too. Every big business started out as a small business, and that is why I'm so concerned that the burden on them is still increasing, with taxes, corporation tax, employers' national insurance, and new regulations. The new government believes that invisible businesses can absorb these costs, but it is everyday people who bear the brunt, either in higher prices or lower wages, sometimes both. We may see the jobs which are lost as a result, but no one ever sees the jobs that never get created. So I am here to show you that I understand businesses' values. I am not here to represent business interests. That's your job. I'm here to let you know the Conservative Party shares your values. I'm often criticized for talking about capitalism. Someone once told me that capitalism is old-fashioned. I don't think so. I think it is important that we explain what capitalism in a free market environment means. Capitalism is not a dirty word. Wealth is not a dirty word. Profit is not a dirty word. But we need to start explaining how these things deliver for the people out there. People who often think that you are in it for yourselves and we, the politicians, are in cahoots. People who think that business is all about greedy fat cats, rather than people who are working hard, entrepreneurs, and those who are making life better for all of us, one way or another. Secondly, we have got to be more precise when we talk about growth. It is not just about increased GDP. It is not even just about increased GDP per capita. You can increase GDP by increasing immigration, but no one feels richer. In fact, some get poorer. You can increase GDP per capita by getting more millionaires and billionaires to move to your country, but that won't necessarily make everyone else better off. In fact, there are many studies that show even when nothing has changed, we are more likely to feel worse when we compare ourselves with those who are a lot wealthier than us. I am talking about real growth, growth that people can see, growth that people can feel, seeing an improved environment around them, as well as having more money in their pockets to spend, knowing that we have enough money to provide security, to protect our families, but also to protect our country in increasingly dangerous times. The bottom line is that economic growth is not the end in itself. It is a means to an end. The end is to make people's lives better. We are not the only country to suffer from low growth. It is plaguing almost all developed countries. As Trade Secretary, just after COVID, I traveled all around the world, and in Italy, Mexico, Japan, the US, Australia, France, people were talking about the same things: a higher cost of living, higher inflation, difficulties controlling mass migration. We are not alone in these problems, but we are unique in our circumstances and our ability to get things moving. That is going to require a change of mindset, and that starts with our politics. Politics needs to accept boundaries. Every day in the legislature, someone has a great new idea that sounds nice in principle, but in practice creates more red tape, more bureaucracy, more burden. The incentive for us as politicians is to keep announcing new nice things. But the way to fix things is not just about creating new laws. We must not be a bureaucratic state. We need to get a proper diagnosis of what is going wrong. Why is capital investment so low? Why is productivity still so stubbornly stalled? I have read endless reports and many reviews with all sorts of potential solutions, improving skills or getting our pensions working harder for us, and we have brought in regulations and policies to address this, and yet still, things are not getting better. I think we need to look again. So I'm not standing here telling you that I have all the answers. I am letting you know that I have seen the system from the inside, and it is broken. We are trying to fix problems with the wrong tools. We are using a mindset and a paradigm that worked well in the late 20th century, but does not work well when we have aggressive competitor economies like China and when there is rapid technological innovation, when our society is getting older and the birth rate is still too low. More quangos, more interference, more regulations, more laws will not fix that. We need to ask ourselves, what is the role of the state? What can we do to create a level playing field and allow you to go out and fix those problems? Finally, government itself must change. It must change what it does if growth is ever properly to return. We didn't address this when we were in government, and if Labour does not, they will fail. Government is going to have to learn from business about how to work better, quicker, and be more responsive. We can no longer tolerate a situation where building roads takes decades, where Treasury decision-making means railways don't get built, where the planning system stops investments being made by you and your colleagues. Over the last 2 decades, you have all had to transform your business models to account for massive societal and technological change. It is time that government does the same, because what we have now isn't working. They will tell you that there is no alternative. There is. We need an alternative strategy so we can finally unleash the power of business to make our country better. I believe in the immense power of business to do good. You may not be the public sector, but many of you deliver critical services for the public. So I will stand up for the values of business. It's time to defend free enterprise and capitalism, to defend lower taxes, less borrowing, and healthy, real competition. It's time to recognize that business is a force for change. It is time to acknowledge that to get growth, real, meaningful growth, that improves the lives of everyone in Britain, we will have to change what we all do. And that is what the Conservatives, under my leadership, are now about. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think you're going to take 2 questions from media, and then we'll go out to the audience to ask for your questions. So I think there were...
I had Gurpreet Narwan from Sky News.
Thank you very much. Would a Conservative government under your leadership reverse the Chancellor's decision to raise employers' national insurance contributions?
Well, one of the things which I have said is that where we can see that a change that has been brought in the budget will obviously not work and will not raise any money. We will change that. I said that, for instance, with the family farms tax, the agricultural property relief. We did not have employers' national insurance at this rate. So it's quite clear, certainly you look at the last budget and what we did, that we did not think it should be this high. One of the things that we're going to have to do is rewire everything. So what I'm not going to do is comment on every bit of micro policy. There will be different budgets, there will be new things that occur, the system may change. What I am starting with is principles. We believe that employers' national insurance, while necessary to help us fund public services, is a tax on jobs. I know this from personal experience. When employers have to pay it, it means that they have less money for higher wages. They may not create new jobs. So we need to make sure that the balance is right. The fact that so many organizations, especially those that have people who are on the lowest wages, are saying that this is becoming unaffordable means that we should look again. And that's one of the first things that we're going to be doing when we start our policy platform. Simon Jack from BBC.
Yes, over there.
Thank you very much. Simon Jack, BBC News. You say that there is an alternative. What was the alternative to raising taxes to fill the black hole which was left by the previous government? And what taxes would you cut, or what services would you cut to fill that black hole?
Thank you, Simon. So I disagree with the premise of the question. We need to stop looking at everything as if it's just a ledger where there's taxes raised and services delivered. Not everything that government does is public services. We can do things better. We can redesign things. You look at, I often use the football regulator as an example. That was something that we brought in. That is more government. Do we need a football regulator? This is one tiny thing, but you look at the cumulative effect of all of the different bits of well-meaning regulation. You add them up together, and they become burdensome. So that is why I'm not talking about which tax we'll tweak here or which service we're going to cut there. We need to completely change the way we talk about how our economy works. What is it that we're trying to do? What should government be doing? How should it do better? Are we having people in the most productive places? And that's going to require a lot of work. That's why I talk about us setting up policy commissions and deep, real reviews, asking the right questions, not just a policy tweak here or there. That's what we're going to do. If we're going to rewire the state, we need to start from there and not just adjust little knobs and levers on tax or insurance. Let's think about everything from first principles.
Right, thank you for that. Now let's go to the floor. We have a question on the left there. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm also Emilio from Politico. You talked about we should be building roads much more quickly. How quickly? We've seen videos of, China building hospitals in 9 weeks or whatever. Once we're past the planning stage, which they obviously don't have to worry about, how quickly should we be able to build new roads or new hospitals or housing? And secondly, you talked about, I can't remember the wording exactly, a rentier society or something like that. What's your view on leasehold, and should it be reformed further?
So I think the question about how long should we take is how long it's like asking how long is a piece of string. We are taking too long. We know we are taking too long because when I was business secretary, many investors would complain about how long it took to get anything done in the UK versus Spain versus Italy. The reason why is because they found the morass of bureaucracy just too difficult to deal with. So we should be looking at what our competitor economies are doing. And we should be asking ourselves why it is that there is so much obstruction to getting things delivered. We have many, many failed projects to use as comparison. We even have live projects like HS2, which we know have cost way too much money, are still not done. You look at, for instance, the Lower Thames crossing. I was given a figure that the planning document for the Lower Thames crossing has cost £300 million. We haven't built anything yet. Yes, other countries, Norway, the Netherlands, they're able to do this a lot faster. We are burdening ourselves in a way that is stopping anything from happening, and that is what I want us to fix. On the question about leasehold, this is something that we set out a policy on. That's not what I'm talking about when I'm saying rent-seeking. When I'm talking about rent-seeking, I'm not talking about landlords. I'm talking about businesses which often just co-opt government into delivering things for them when they're not being productive. And I think we could do a lot better in terms of examining where we are spending our money and whether they are in areas that are delivering productivity for our economy.
Right, thank you for that. And can I just ask you to say who you are at the beginning of your question? And please can we, I think we've done media for the moment, we're going to concentrate on members. Halfway down the aisle there, thank you.
Good afternoon, my name's Jazz Singh. I'm the founder of Empowerability. I'm also a serving prisoner as I stand here today. For Britain to prosper, all its people need to prosper. What point have we got with regards to social mobility in trying to get the hard-to-reach people in our communities, those that are in excluded schools, pupil referral units and in prisons, to get them retrained so they can make a meaningful contribution to society and start lifting that burden on society in healthcare, in other addiction sort of recovery programs? Because we always talk about building more rather than actually using what we've got and making it more efficient.
Okay, I do agree. I do think that we can use what we have now a lot better. And if you look at the stats on what we are spending on servicing debt, for example, I think in my speech I said we spend more on defense and more on education. I think on health, I'm not quite sure whether that is accurate on health, but certainly more on defense, more on education. So we're not using our money in the place that's delivering the very best. But to the point you made about those who are disadvantaged, about social mobility, about giving people a second chance, like people who have been to prison, we need to make sure that we start, as I said, from first principles. I've often talked about the importance of family. Yes, it is something many people think we shouldn't talk about. It's not the business of government. But you look at the prison population, for example, you look at those who are severely disadvantaged. Family has the biggest impact. What can we do to support families? Whether it's on getting mothers to work, whether it is on childcare, or even in providing safer, stronger communities. These are things where we need to look at what we're doing and whether it's just busy work or actually things that are making a meaningful difference to people's lives. There are a lot of things that we did do when we were in government, which I think worked. We had a troubled families program. It was very specific, went into, literally into people's homes, but it was quite a complex way of delivering that sort of policy. There may be better ways of doing that. And that's why I'm not sitting here saying we've got all the answers. We do not. We've had 14 years of different flavors of Conservative government, but we still have many of the challenges that our peer countries have, whether in France or Germany. What can we do to try and turn things around, given the state of technological innovation, competitive countries, an aging society, demography, and so much more? I think that there's a lot more that we can do.
Thank you. Over on the left, please. And if you want to ask a question, just waggle your hand vaguely in the air and somebody with a paddle will come and tell you that you've just won the auction prize. Yes, over on the left, sir.
Hi, Joe Parkinson from WeGrow. One of the things that I think about a lot is the state pulling levers and basically nothing happening. Because, I mean, there's this perception that you can just get into government and we'll just turn this dial and press that button and then it'll be fine. And there's a really excellent book by Sam Freeman about the problems of government. And how can we undo those bottlenecks that mean that we announce a package that says we're going to spend X amount of money on creating this, and then nothing happens. And then we say we're going to change these regulations, and then nothing happens. It actually delivers growth. So how do we undo those bottlenecks within the British state at the moment to actually allow decisions that are made and resources are allocated really manifesting themselves in change that affects people on a daily basis? Thanks.
I think we're going to have to look again at how we see risk. If I look at my experience in all the various government departments I was in, whether it's business or trade or education or the Treasury, risk appetite often precluded the way things were delivered. And I gave evidence to the Post Office inquiry recently about that we are trying to create almost a zero-risk environment. And so the bottlenecks tend to be in areas where the risk assessment has been made in such a way that the benefit is less post the risk assessment. This doesn't mean that we shouldn't think about risk, but I don't think that the way we're doing it is particularly helpful. We add in so many caveats, so many sort of different legal, public law barriers, consultations, judicial review. You look at the planning system, how much people are able to oppose things that should just happen anyway, not necessarily things that will be disruptive or destructive. And I think it is about looking at the balance of risk. You look at what happened during COVID, for example. I think we got the balance of risk wrong there, but We cannot create a zero-risk environment. We need to get more people understanding that risk does create reward, and that if you do take risks and you lose, the government cannot always be there to bail you out, but that if you do succeed, then you should be able to enjoy those rewards. So let's look again at risk management, risk appetite, and what it is we are genuinely able to bear. And I think that that will help us move and shift some of those levers that are actually quite stark.
Right, just to say we have a slight problem with a shy right.
All right.
So we want to keep balance between the left and right of our parties.
I will look at them
so
now.
I'm going to go to the right-hand side of the panel there, thank you.
Good afternoon. Dominic Collier from City and Guilds. Our recent report, Making Skills Work, highlighted that 91% of CEOs see developing skills as fundamental to boosting productivity. As leader of the opposition, how will you focus on this area?
Well, I think I'll start by making us more specific about what we mean when we say skills. I sat in many roundtables, many meetings, and everybody was talking about skills, and we were speaking at cross purposes. What exactly do we mean? For some people, it's basic social skills. I remember doing a prison visit, and I was told that we teach them skills, and I asked to see what sort of skills they were teaching, and it was basic things like teaching people to say please and thank you. That the prisoners who left prison, who couldn't use those the language that children use, were unable to move very far. To the more, the other extreme end of the line, AI and so on, there is a huge spectrum of skills development that is required. Making sure that we are able to do so in a way where we're developing the talents of people in this country, creating more second chances, not just assuming that what you did at A-levels or at university is what you're going to do for the rest of your life, when we know that we're all getting older and we're all going to be working longer. So I would like us to be more specific about skills. I sat in meetings where some people were talking about, very serious manufacturing skills, and another person was talking about PowerPoint. It's not the same thing. We need to be more specific in our language. We need to talk to each other better, and I think that way we'll be able to develop real policy that makes a difference.
Thank you. Question over there.
Hi, I'm Lenny Rolls from the University of Sussex. I wondered, following on from that question, given the skills that we're providing students that are coming through and how important universities are to the UK economy, what more you think government needs to do to support universities to be able to deliver growth for the economy?
So I actually went to University of Sussex. That was where I got my first degree in engineering. And it amazes me how much has changed in the last sort of 22 years since I finished, how even the programming and the coding which I was doing there has become obsolete. I think being able to stay current, being able to evolve with changing times is one of the things that universities find very difficult to do, and being able to show what it is that they're doing that's different, that is providing us with a competitive and comparative advantage against our peer countries is key. I am quite worried right now about the ability for your key customers, that is students, to be able to pick the right course for what they want to do in life. I think that there is a lot of confusion about what you can do with courses. Many courses teach knowledge, not necessarily skills. So you would have heard lots of people sit in conferences like this and talk about, better partnerships with business and government and the education sector and so on and so forth. I don't want us to deal just in cliches. What does a successful partnership like that really look like? It's got to be something which we can measure. It's got to be something where the metrics are showing that what universities are doing are making a difference. And as I said, in the same competitive environment the business needs to work in, universities need to work in that competitive environment as well. If universities are not delivering for their clients, for their customers, then they need to evolve or leave. And that's one of the things that I think that we can do better in terms of measuring the genuine outcomes of the people who are passing through our educational institutions to make sure that they're getting what they are being promised, because they mostly only get one chance. They come out with a lot of debt, and we need to make sure that we're making sure that they use that one chance as best as they can.
Kemi, thank you very much indeed for that, and thank you for coming here today. It's been great to see you here in Seoul. I know members will want to give you a round of applause and say thank you, Kemi.
Thank you, Rupert.